Greetings from the Jazz Cloud. I'm Richie Zellon, and in this video I bring you the fourth in a series of 10 tips to improve your jazz guitar solos. Tip number 4, phrasing over the bar line. Coming up next. Welcome back to the Jazz Guitar Channel, and if this is your first time and you want to learn all about the art of playing jazz guitar, you've arrived. I bring you weekly lessons covering everything from chord melody, harmony, improvisation technique, and occasionally even some very bad jokes. So I want to encourage you to subscribe and be sure to click the bell icon so you won't miss a thing. In the previous lesson, my third tip was make use of guide tones. And I explained why the most important guide tones are the 3rd and 7th of the chord. I also went on to demonstrate how these guide tones constitute the best gateway when transitioning to a new chord. Based on that premise, today I want to take this concept a step further and talk about phrasing over the bar line. And the lack of observing this small but important detail is a common problem among rookie jazz improvisers. Along with not resolving to the closest guide tone at the point of chord change, never phrasing over the bar line will make your lines sound fragmented or lacking unity. It's the musical equivalent of speaking in short phrases versus full sentences and paragraphs. When we start out improvising over chord changes, especially after years of playing over the blues, using just one pentatonic for the whole thing, we tend to react differently to the bar lines, particularly when we see a new chord on beat 1 of the upcoming measure. Somehow our brains register each bar line as if it were a stop sign. And whatever phrase we started at the beginning of the current measure suddenly comes to a screeching halt. You wouldn't imagine how many new students I begin working with that aren't even aware that they do this. Is this you? Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. 1, 2, 3, 4. So what I did there was play a little lick for each chord. And at least these were improvised licks and not those typical memorized licks that many newbies try to force over each chord. But my point here is that hopefully you noticed what it amounts to, which is a lack of thematic development and continuity. So what we have to strive for, and I'm not saying it is easy in the beginning, is to conceive of those bar lines as if they were green lights. And we want to play right through them and right through the chord changes. Again, you are not running a red light just because the chord is changing. On the contrary, you want to musically communicate through your solo using that initial entry guide tone to the new measure that we are now over a new chord. So next, let me phrase over the bar line, and then I'll talk about different ways to practice this concept. So I'm not just playing eighth notes straight through the bar line. I will usually play a phrase and take a breath in the middle of a measure and start like a little pickup into the next measure, and in that way I'll play through the bar line. So it's like a pickup to the next chord. Let me demonstrate. So let's say I start here in this A minor and I'm going to the D and then to the G. I'm playing a 2-5-1. Breath, pickup to the one chord. I went across the bar line. Now maybe I'll take a breath and then I'll do a little pickup into the next chord. You can also use, over a few measures, a lot of straight eighth notes, but don't just constantly do that. If not, you'll be just rattling nonsense and not really saying anything, and you'll end up boring your listeners just as much as if you were playing little phrases for each chord as I did previously. Another concept which is directly related to phrasing over the bar line is the importance of always thinking in cadences. And that's why jazz musicians are always talking about 2-5-1s and the 1-6-2-5 progression. That's why so many teachers out there are always teaching you this or that 2-5-1 lick. And I want to interject that yes, they sound good, but can you make them sound good in the context of your solo? Not to mention, can you even recall them to begin with during your solo? I believe these licks should be used to analyze their construction so we understand how the masters think and make use of the jazz grammar. But back to thinking in cadences, let me give you some examples of what this entails. So, taking Autumn Leaves again, because it's just such a well-known tune, most of you already know it. Let me demonstrate the whole concept of thinking in cadences. It's definitely 100% linked to the thought process that we're using in phrasing across the bar line. As a matter of fact, you need to understand how to think in cadences to be able to phrase across the bar line. So if we have A minor to D7, D9 here to a G major 7 with the 9th on top, we have a 2-5-1. So when I see something like this, and this holds true for most jazz musicians, we see a unified chord progression over which we want to form a sentence. We want to say something to that. We want to put a period somewhere towards the end of the cadence over the one chord. So and if it continues, there I did a little pickup to the C major chord. So here we have another 2-5. The F sharp half diminished to the B7 altered to the 1 minor, the E minor. So again, we think over those 3 chords a unified idea. See, there I conclude my phrase. So when we practice our ideas, we want to practice thinking over cadences, not chord by chord. So that covers my fourth tip. You don't touch that. Don't click on that. I'm not finished yet. Please be sure to watch all the upcoming lessons in this series, as by the time I get to the 10th and final tip, you are going to see the big picture of some of the most important elements that need to come together to create a good jazz solo. And if you need help systematically working out all the concepts in this series, please don't go crazy and waste your valuable time trying to reinvent the wheel. It's all been worked out and laid out for you in a logical manner. I've got 2 comprehensive online courses and 6 books that will help you achieve this step by step. Like I always say, there is a method to this madness we call jazz improvisation. So check out the Bebop Guitar Improv series. Be sure to check out the link below. In the next lesson, I will discuss the concept of developing a contour and show you how to increase and decrease your range to add more peaks and valleys to your solos. So don't miss tip number 5. As usual, I'd love to hear your comments and welcome any questions you may have. Hope you've enjoyed this lesson, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and be sure to click on the bell icon so you won't miss anything. Have fun and look forward to seeing you in the next video.